Welcome everybody to the full 90. It is finally time for the second part of the UEFA Nations League. This is match day for the 14th of October to the 16th of October, and there are some tight games in this list, probably more draws predicted in this video than I ever have, but we're going to get straight into the predictions. As always, if you want to see more like this, be sure to leave a like on it, subscribe today, turn on the notification bell to be notified when I upload my next video. I think the next one coming up will be a Premier League one, so for all you fans out there, I got you. But anyway, coming up, we have first game of the video, Romania versus Serbia. Now, Romania have been playing really well. They've been beating some fairly decent teams, and Serbia are actually pretty decent as well. They've got some decent players, so I think it's going to be a close game, and Romania are quite attack-minded. I think they're going to try and push for that home win, which is why I'm going for a 2-1. Now, obviously, I said this in my previous Nations League video, but in my Premier League videos, I talk more about the games. I go more in depth, even in the Champions League videos, but with the Nations League, there are far more games and a lot of information that isn't really necessary, in my opinion, for this video. This is more about the predictions than anything else, so that's why I'm going to skip over most of the games fairly quickly just with my prediction, because yeah, otherwise we'll be here for about an hour. So anyway, coming up next, we have Azerbaijan versus Malta. Now, Azerbaijan, they're all right, and they are at home and they're playing decent. Malta, on the other hand, are not that great. They're in pretty poor form, if I'm right on that. So I think this is going to be a 2-0 win to Azerbaijan, fairly easy. It's not often in this video I've gone for 2 goals or more winning margin. It's usually quite close, which is what the Nations League is about. You're supposed to have teams playing against each other that are on sort of a level playing field for the most part. But Azerbaijan, I think, should win this one fairly comfortably. The next one, Faroe Islands against Kosovo. Kosovo, they're playing very well. They're in decent form, and for teams that are on their level, I think they should be beating them. So even though they're away from home in the Faroe Islands, I do think it's going to be 1-0 for Kosovo. Coming up, we have a bit of a bigger game. We've got Russia versus Turkey. Now, Turkey, they're pretty good. Turkey, I think they beat Sweden 3-2, and they were 2-1 down going into stoppage time, and they made an insane comeback. Like, that's impressive, whatever way you look at it. The same thing happened in the Europa League, I think. Sporting Lisbon, they were 1-0 down, and they scored 2 goals in stoppage time to reverse that result, which is absolutely insane. But back to this, I think Russia are strong. They're good. They're at home, and yeah, since the World Cup, they've been playing very well, very attacking and very good. They are a little bit questionable in defense. They do concede, which is why I think Turkey will grab one, but I think it's going to be a 2-1 to Russia. Coming up next, we travel to Israel for Israel versus Albania. Albania, they're okay. Israel, they're not. They're really not. If you saw my last video, you will see that I predicted Scotland to beat Israel. At the time of recording this, that hasn't yet happened, so maybe Israel beats Scotland and they go on to win this game, but that's probably not going to happen. I'm going to go with a 1-0 Albania win. Moving on, we have Lithuania versus Montenegro. Now, Lithuania, they're kind of just, they're all right. They're not great, which is the same with a lot of teams at this level. But Montenegro are actually on decent form. They seem to be firing pretty well, getting some good results, playing good games, which is why I've gone for a 2-0 away win to Montenegro. It could be 2-1, but I think Montenegro are going to win this convincingly, so that is my choice behind that. And the big game, I guess you could say, on the first day is Poland versus Italy. Now, Italy and Poland, both teams you'd kind of expect to do better than they have been doing. Italy particularly, they're really struggling. They drew last night at the time recording with Ukraine 1-1. And, you just expect them to do better than that. Poland, you think they should be doing well, but honestly, I can't see anything other than another 1-1. So I'm going for 1 apiece, Poland 1 and Italy 1. We're moving on now to the 15th of October, starting with Belarus versus Moldova. I'm going to go with 2-0 to Belarus. That is the prediction I've got written here. I just think Belarus at home, they don't score many goals, so it might be a bit far-fetched of me to think they're going to score 2 in this game, but I think they're going to push it out. I think they're going to do it. The next game is an interesting one. We've got Bosnia and Herzegovina versus Northern Ireland, and I'll say this at the beginning, I've gone 1-0 to Bosnia. Now, it's interesting because the Northern Ireland, the previous fixture in the Nations League, Northern Ireland lost to Bosnia 2-1, but I think Northern Ireland were a bit unlucky, to not get anything out of that game. I think they were on the front foot for the most of it. They just couldn't finish their chances. And Bosnia, they're good at getting results. I think when the teams are evenly matched in the game, say possession is, you know, fairly even, shots and all that are even, I would fancy them to take the edge over the other team. So that is why I've gone with a home win, Bosnia to win 1-0. Moving on, we have Estonia hosting Hungary. Now, Hungary, they're in pretty decent form, and I would say that they're definitely in better form than Estonia, and I think they are a better team than Estonia, which is why another convincing win. It seems the second day for me is a lot more open than the first. I'm going with a 2-0 win to Hungary. Coming up next, we have a very this should be an interesting game. Finland hosting Greece. Greece, they're decent, you know, they're Greece. They're Greece. And Finland, they're doing very well as well. I would say all the Scandinavian teams, you know, Norway, Sweden, Finland, well, that's Scandinavia for you, but they're all doing fairly well, and I fancy Finland at home here. Greece could pull out a draw, that wouldn't surprise me. It could even be 0-0, but I'm going for a finish 1-0. See that little pun there, 1-0 finish. Anyway, the next game, Iceland versus Switzerland. Now, we all know Iceland are struggling in the top league. They've done decently recently in the last few years with football, so they got chucked into a league, I think, a little bit too high for them. Like, I think Russia are in the league below. It would make sense in a way if those two sort of swapped around. I think that could be quite interesting. But yeah, I think Iceland, they're going to struggle against Switzerland, even though it's at home. But I think maybe the home advantage might give them something. But don't worry, I'm not going for an Iceland win. I think Switzerland are going to win, with my score prediction being 3-1. That could go, you know, that could go a number of ways. It could be 5-0. It could be 1-1. You never know. But I'm going for 3-1 Switzerland. Coming up next, we have Luxembourg versus San Marino. What can you say about San Marino other than it must suck to be a San Marino fan when it comes to football? But I'm going for, obviously, a Luxembourg win. And the margin, I'm going for 4-0, which is, it's pretty big. It's out there, but I'm going for that. Next one, big game. We've got Spain versus England. Now, England lost the reverse fixture 2-1 thanks to a disallowed goal, which I don't think should have been disallowed. I think it should have been 2-2. England played pretty well, but obviously, you know, that's at Wembley. They're better at Wembley. I think Spain are going to outclass England here, and I think it's going to be the same result, 2-1 to Spain. We're now moving on to the final day. This one, for the most part, a little bit of a snooze fest this last day, but there is obviously the big game in there, probably the biggest game of the entire weekend, you could say. Kazakhstan versus Andorra. That's not the big game, but we're starting off with Kazakhstan versus Andorra, and I think this is my only and first ever score prediction where I'm saying this score. I think it's going to be 0-0. I don't think any team's going to score. Never predicted that in any of my videos on my channel, but I'm going with a 0-0 here. I don't know. I just don't see who's going to score, if anyone. So we're going with a 0-0. Moving on, we have Armenia versus Macedonia. Macedonia doing quite well, and they're looking quite strong. So I think Macedonia are going to take it. It's right there for them, even though it's an away fixture. I'm going with Macedonia 2 and Armenia 0. Now, probably the biggest game of the Nations League. Probably the biggest game that could be ever in international football, except maybe France and Belgium like we had in the semi-final of the World Cup. That was a pretty big one. But France versus Germany. Now, it's weird. I don't think I would have ever predicted such a clear-cut winner against Germany as this. I don't see anything other than a France win. I think France are they're so much stronger than Germany. Germany are going through a rough patch right now. Obviously, they lost to South Korea in the World Cup. You know, circumstances were a bit dodgy, but they finished bottom of the group, I'm pretty sure. France obviously won the whole thing, so it's polar opposites. France are on the way up in like stupendous form, and Germany, they are on the way down. You know, players in, out, it's all over the place. Obviously, they are Germany, though. They've still got solid players, and they're a very good team. I just can't see them beating France, so I'm going to go with a 2-1 win to France. But it wouldn't surprise me if that was a 2-0 win to France or anything like that. But I'm going to keep it close, give Germany a bit of credit where it's due. I think it's going to be 2-1 to France. Coming up next, we have, honestly, again, I'm very, very excited to see the result of Gibraltar versus Liechtenstein. Both very bad teams. But hey, when you're equally matched, you're in for a good game. They always get battered. Each team, they usually don't score, and they usually concede 3+ goals. But when you put them against each other, who knows what can happen? So, I mean, I think Liechtenstein are slightly better. I really do. I think they're slightly better. So, I should... this is a bit of a fun prediction. I should say Liechtenstein 1, Gibraltar 0. But I'm going to switch it up because Gibraltar, they beat Latvia 1-0. That's their only ever win as a country. I'm going for the same result here. Gibraltar 1, Liechtenstein 0. I think that just them, the players knowing at home that they really finally have some sort of a chance to win a game. Because obviously Liechtenstein's a tiny place. There's not going to be many people to choose from. I think that'll push Gibraltar to the win. I'm going to go with 1-0. I hope anyway. If not, it's all good. The next game, Latvia versus Georgia. Obviously, Latvia losing to Gibraltar that one time. I think Georgia, they're doing very, very well. I've written 1-0 here. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm going to go with a 2-0 away win for Georgia. I'm pretty sure they've won their last Nations League fixtures 2-0 as well. So 2-0, 1-0. Take your pick. I'm going to go with 2-0 in this video. The next game, Norway versus Bulgaria. Slightly better standard now. And I can't choose between the two. I can't separate them. So I'm going to go with Norway 1, Bulgaria 1. A draw. And then next, we have the Republic of Ireland versus Wales. On my predictions right here, I've got 2-1 to Wales, but that does depend on whether or not Gareth Bale plays. I think if Gareth Bale plays, it could be 3-1, it could be 2-0, it could be a lot, you know, further apart. Either way, I think Wales are going to win. If Gareth Bale doesn't play, it could be close, it could be a draw, but I'm going to go with 2-1 to Wales. Now, we've got 2 more games left. We've got Slovenia versus Cyprus. They're both a little bit dodgy, and they're both a little bit leaky at the back. They do concede. Cyprus really aren't that great, but like I said, Slovenia aren't that great either, and I think they're struggling at the moment, so I'm going to predict 2-2. That's punchy, because obviously, you know, you have to have 4 goals scored in the game for that to happen, and these teams don't tend to score that many goals, but I'm hoping sort of them both being bad will sort of cancel out and create a few goals for this game. So I'm going to go with 2-2. And the final game, Ukraine versus Czech Republic. Ukraine doing very well, having a really good year so far, and they obviously drew with Italy 1-1 last night at the time of recording. I'm going to go with a home win, Ukraine 2-0 against Czech Republic. So that is that for the UEFA Nations League. These videos are long. I might have to rethink the way I do them, or even if I do them at all in the future, or just stick with Premier League and Champions League. We'll see how it goes, but I committed to doing both videos this week, and although my life is so hectic and so busy right now, I've stuck to it. I've made the 2 videos, so if you did enjoy it, be sure to let me know down in the comments, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video for the Premier League.